Good morning. This is the City Planning Commission public meeting held in Spector Hall, 22 Reade Street. Today is Wednesday, September 6, 2017. As a courtesy during the proceedings, we ask that you please turn off all cell phones and beepers. All speakers should fill out a speaker's card. In addition, we ask that those providing testimony please identify yourself, limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and speak clearly into the microphone. I will now call the roll. Chair Lago.
Here.
Vice Chairman Knuckles. Commissioner Besser. Commissioner Cantor.
Here.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Here.
Commissioner Delausse.
Here.
Commissioner Dweck.
Here.
Commissioner Edie. Commissioner Efron.
Here.
Commissioner Knight.
Here.
Commissioner Levin. Commissioner Marin.
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Here.
A quorum is present. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, August 23rd, 2017.
On the minutes, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved.
Scheduling on calendar numbers 1 through 13, we have resolutions for adoption. Scheduling Wednesday, September 19, 2017, for a public hearing to be held at the Manhattan Municipal Building, 1 Center Street at 9 a.m.
I think that's Tuesday.
No,
Tuesday, September 19th.
Yep.
sorry. Tuesday, September 19.
And with that, on the resolution, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The resolutions are adopted.
The next part of the calendar is the report section on page 32. Borough of the Bronx, calendar number 14, CDs 10 and 11, C160253, MMX. In the matter of an application for an amendment to the city map concerning Westchester Avenue Bridge. For a favorable report on calendar number 14, Chair Lago,
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor, Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Delausse,
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck,
Yes.
Commissioner Efron,
Yes.
Commissioner Knight,
Yes.
Commissioner Levin, Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 14. Borough of the Bronx, calendar number 15, CD 8 N1 80012 ZCX. In the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning 4725 Independence Avenue, Stein Residence. For adoption on calendar number 15, Chair Lago,
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor, Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Delausse, Commissioner Dweck,
Yes.
Commissioner Efron,
Yes.
Commissioner Knight,
Yes.
Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Calendar number 15 has been adopted. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar number 16, CD 8 C150382 PQK. In the matter of an application for the acquisition of property concerning Albany Avenue Neighborhood Senior Citizen Center. For a favorable report on calendar number 16, Chair Lago,
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor,
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Delausse, Commissioner Dweck,
Yes.
Commissioner Efron,
Yes.
Commissioner Knight,
Yes.
Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 16. Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 17, CD, excuse me. Calendar number 17, CD4 N180021 ZAM. In the matter of an application for the grant of an authorization concerning Block 4 contribution in kind, 66 Hudson Boulevard. For adoption on calendar number 17, Chair Lago,
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor,
Recused.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Recused.
Commissioner Delausse,
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck,
Yes.
Commissioner Efron,
Yes.
Commissioner Knight,
Yes.
Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Calendar number 17 has been adopted. Borough of Queens, calendar number 18, CD 12 C150395 PQQ. In the matter of an application for the acquisition of property concerning All My Children Daycare Center 6. For a favorable report on calendar number 18, Chair Lago,
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor, Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Efron?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 18. Borough of Queens, calendar numbers 19 and 20. Calendar number 19, CD 12, C170336ZMQ. Calendar number 20, N170337ZRQ. In the matter of applications for a zoning map and zoning text amendment concerning the Northeastern Towers Annex rezoning. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 19 and 20, Chair Lago,
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor, Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss,
Recuse.
Commissioner Dweck,
Yes.
Commissioner Efron,
Yes.
Commissioner Knight, Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 19 and 20. Borough of Queens, calendar numbers 21, 22, and 23. Calendar number 21 has been withdrawn. Calendar number 22, CD7, C170180A, ZMQ. Calendar number 23, N170181ZRQ. In the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning 135-01 35th Avenue rezoning. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 22 and 23, Chair Lago,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles,
Yes, and Madam Chair, I'd like affirmative votes recorded for 14 through 20.
Gladly.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cantor, Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck,
Yes.
Commissioner Efron,
Yes.
or should I go back and see Commissioner Edie?
22
Yep.
and 23.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, and I'd like to be recorded in the affirmative on the prior ones.
Will-
Thank you.
Commissioner Efron,
Yes.
Commissioner Knight, Commissioner Marin, Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 22 and 23. Borough of Staten Island, calendar numbers 24 and 25. Calendar number 24, CD1, C160174ZSR. Calendar number 25, C150359 MMR. In the matter of applications for the grant of a special permit and a city map amendment concerning the South Avenue retail development. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 24 and 25, Chair Lago,
I'd like to preface my vote with a few comments. During the public hearing, we heard from many members of the public with concerns with the application, and I think it's important to acknowledge them. It's not that often that we see the development of such a large parcel of land, and a piece of land that also contains regulated wetlands. But I thought it important to place the vote in the context of what our findings are. And there are a number of findings with respect to traffic and transit, but also a finding that the use would not impair the neighborhood character and not produce any adverse effects that could interfere with the appropriate use of the properties in the district. And as is evident in the application, Forest Avenue is the North Shore's major commercial corridor, and this proposal not only would impair the neighborhood character, but I believe supports the existing small and large-scale retail, and it provides a connection between them in a thoughtful manner. Now, many community members also expressed that they would have preferred that this privately owned land be kept in its natural state, and they point to the New York State's designation of the Graniteville Swamp as a priority conservation site. And again, understandable that wetlands do bring pleasure and amenity. But I'll also note that the state designation also noted that to meet the goal of the long-term conservation of open space for large sites, it would require, quote, a balance between conservation and compatible natural resource-sensitive economic development. And I believe that this site provides that balance. I place particular weight on the fact that all of the construction under this proposal would occur outside of DEC-regulated wetlands and outside of the FEMA floodplain. And so with that, I vote yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles,
Thank you for those assurances, Chair, and I vote yes as well.
Commissioner Cantor? Yes. Commissioner Cerullo?
I'd like to just thank the chair for articulating so comprehensively the rationale for supporting a favorable report on this application, and in doing so, would like to associate myself with her remarks and vote aye.
Commissioner Delauss?
I appreciate the chair's comments very much and know that the developer has gone through a number of steps to get to this point with this project, including New York State DEC environmental review and approval. And as the chair noted, we did hear a number of concerns raised by the community, specific in addition to environmental justice concerns, separate from environmental concerns. And those have not been reviewed yet under recent local environmental justice legislation, which was recently passed, and as such, I'm uncomfortable voting other than abstaining at this point, so I abstain.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Efron?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz? Yes. Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 24 and 25. Borough of Staten Island, calendar numbers 26, 27, and 28. Calendar number 26, CD2, N160323ZAR. Calendar number 27, N160324 ZAR. Calendar number 28, N160325 ZAR. In the matter of applications for the grant of authorizations concerning 45 Helena Road for adoption on calendar numbers 26, 27, and 28. Chair Lago.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor. Yes. Commissioner Cerullo. Yes. Commissioner Delauss. Yes. Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Calendar numbers 26, 27, and 28 have been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar numbers 29 and 30. Calendar number 29, CD2, N160372 ZAR. Calendar number 30, N160373 ZAR. In the matter of applications for the grant of authorizations concerning 90 Old Farmers Lane for adoption on calendar numbers 29 and 30. Chair Lago.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor. Yes. Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss. Yes. Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz. Yes. Calendar numbers 29 and 30 have been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar numbers 31, 32, and 33. Calendar number 31, CD1, N170338 ZAR. Calendar number 32, N170339 ZAR. Calendar number 33, N170340 ZAR. In the matter of applications for the grant of authorizations concerning the St. Peter's Cemetery for adoption on calendar numbers 31, 32, and 33. Chair Lago.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor. Yes. Commissioner Cerullo. Yes. Commissioner Delauss. Yes. Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Calendar numbers 31, 32, and 33 have been adopted. The next part of the calendar is the public hearing section on page 46. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 34 and 35. Calendar number 34, CD3, C170025ZMK. Calendar number 35, N170026ZRK. A public hearing in the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning 723-733 Myrtle Avenue rezoning.
We have a speaker in favor, Richard Lobel.
Thank you, Chair Lago. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here today to present on 723 to 733 Myrtle Avenue, which is a rezoning which is highlighted in the dotted area on the zoning change map. The zoning currently for those properties within the rezoning area are M11 on the north side of Myrtle Avenue and M12 on the south side. And the rezoning, as you can see from the dotted area, would change that zoning district on the M11 side to the north to an R7D with a C24 overlay, and on the southern side to an R6A with a C24 overlay. And what this does is it really reflects the prior rezoning that was effectuated in 2012, where about 6 blocks to the east of this property, and if you'll allow me to just flip this board, were rezoned along Myrtle Avenue. So this same R7D C24 district was established in the Bed-Stuy North rezoning in 2012. And the goals of that rezoning are really something that are accomplished as well in this rezoning, which are to allow for more affordable housing, to allow for ground floor commercial uses, and to create a more inviting pedestrian experience here along Myrtle Avenue, which is obviously a major thoroughfare. And so the proposed rezoning area here, as can be seen highlighted in red, and that's the development area, consists of 5 lots with approximately 15,000 square feet of lot area. The proposal here would allow for the conversion of this essentially open use site, which houses truck parking and such, to a mixed use building which would have ground floor commercial approximating about 15,000 square feet, a second story of community facility approximating 15,000 square feet, and then a total of 8 stories. So the 3rd through 8th stories would be residential, with a total of 75 units, of which 25% or 19 would be affordable, currently contemplated as option 1, so 60% of AMI. We've had tremendous success with regards to this rezoning, I think, for 2 primary reasons. The first has been that when you look at the context of this area and you look at these blocks, particularly within the rezoning and these block fronts are really right now occupied primarily by 50% residential uses with some ground floor commercial and about 35% of open uses. So you're either looking at sites which are non-conforming, which will now become conforming, or you're looking at underutilized sites which will now be able to house affordable housing, as well as mixed use and residential buildings. The second reason I think it's been successful is because there's been a tremendous support at the community board and generally within the area. We received a vote of 24-5 approximately in favor from Community Board 3. We were very proud of that. We went back for several meetings with them, and there were numerous discussions between the applicant team and the community board. So we're very happy where we ended up. We know that the Brooklyn Borough President did not release a report, I think, until this morning. We haven't seen it yet. So there were some discussion on the margins of things that were raised by the commission in the review session, which I'm happy to answer questions about, but my time is up.
Excellent timing. Questions from the commission. Commissioner Dweck.
Perhaps you can answer some questions that were
I'd be happy to.
brought up in the review session, specific to unit mix and anything else that was brought up.
Sure. So if you'll allow me to just provide the specifics with regards to the unit mix. As was presented to the community board, the unit mix reflected a distribution of 27 studios, 45 one-bedrooms, and 3 2-to-3 bedrooms. And I would just note that the community board actually favored this type of unit mix. This was, having done rezonings within this area before, this was something where they felt that studios and one-bedrooms would be well utilized by local area residents. And of course, there's a 50% preference given to Community Board 3 members with regards to the inclusionary housing units. I know that the Brooklyn Borough President's Office expressed a desire for larger average unit sizes. The applicant is not opposed to that. And so it's been understanding that any of this is kind of a discussion as far as an illustrative mix because this is a rezoning and we're not approving a specific site plan. The applicant, as we told the Brooklyn Borough President, is happy to provide larger unit sizes. It's not something that we're wedded to.
Commissioner Deleuze.
As follow-up to that, and One thing I would recommend, if it hasn't already been done, is to consult with HPD about Housing Connect applications in the area and where the greatest demand has been for the local community board to help inform the unit mix, and obviously review the borough president's recommendation once we all see it.
Sure.
I just wanted to ask you, because the rezoning is not just related to the particular property in question, but covers other blocks, is there any insight from the community board discussion related to the other areas that are to be rezoned that you can share?
Well, I'd actually like to address the first point you made and then the second. The first would be, we appreciate the fact that we will consult with regards to those unit sizes, but we also would add that one of the items that the community board requested was our interaction with a local housing regulatory agent, administering agent. So we have been working with Impact Brooklyn, and we look forward to working through these unit size issues with them. So as to optimize the building for the community and for the applicant. With regards to the other sites, I'd note that there's 3 block fronts included in this rezoning area. The applicant actually owns about a third of the sites. Most of the sites are owned by other parties. With regards to the R6A C24 district, which is part of the rezoning on the south of Myrtle, of those 8 properties, all 8 are non-conforming residential with commercial on the ground floor, residential above. So it's unlikely that those would be really redeveloped here. But to the extent that any redevelopment does occur, the current development is conforming. With regards to the other sites, the applicant would be redeveloping most of the block front between Walworth and Stanford. And the other site is I think it has open uses. There's a contracting yard, and my understanding now is that obviously the rezoning would allow this to flourish as a mixed-use building. I understand there's long-term leases on one of the sites, so this may take a number of years. But when we did pencil this out, of course, for the environmental assessment statement, we did do, under reasonable worst case, a full rebuild of that, and the community did not express any opinion, but I can only imagine that type of development would be welcome. Another nice thing about the R70 C24 is that it mandates ground floor commercial uses, and so what you really have is kind of an inviting pedestrian thoroughfare, and a really kind of re-enlivens the commercial corridor here. So we're happy to be bringing that to the area.
Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Vice Chair Knuckles.
Thank you. Is there a identified user for the community facility space at this point?
There's not. The owners are longtime owners within Bed-Stuy, and have in the past rented space in the area to medical offices, and so they anticipate that there would be similar demand for the community facility space here as well.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Hi, could you speak to neighborhood context in terms of the anticipated height of this building? And we're looking at 8 stories, and everything in the immediate vicinity is 4 stories, from 1 to 4 stories.
Sure. I think that we're kind of keying our development in line with the R7D, which has been established to these 6 blocks to the east. And so for many years, I don't think that the development in that area and along that corridor really picked up on that zoning, that there were not a lot of projects which took advantage to that. I know that there are some now which are being built and which would anticipate a little bit larger density. The idea here with the R7D was, in addition to maintaining this context, was that a couple of things. First of all, you have a wide thoroughfare at 75 feet. Our building type, which reflects, a typical R7D district building, is going to be 8 stories. It would be about 90 feet tall. And I think that given the NYCHA housing in the area, and the fact that you do have a wide thoroughfare here, and you do have a fairly good transit corridor, we are within the transit zone, that it's anticipated that we would be able to populate this building, and that it would be something that would be welcome as far as this bulk on this type of street. We've looked at R7A and R7D rezonings in the past on, which were a little bit more challenging in terms of neighborhood context, but the feeling we've gotten back from the from both the department as well as the community board was that an R70 building here would be welcome. And this is also in the context of other rezonings we've done with the community board recently where they've challenged R7 bulk on certain thoroughfares, but as far as this was concerned, everyone was really pleased to see this development, this type of development here.
Other questions from the commission? Okay, thank you, Mr. Lobel.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners.
We do not have any other speakers registered to speak on this item, but if anyone present would want to, please make your way to the podium. Oh, okay, great. Just under the wire.
You're on.
Hello. Good morning. My name is Bryant Brown, and I'm here testifying on behalf of my union, SEIU 32BJ. I'm here testifying today. As you all know, 32BJ is the largest property service workers union in the country. 32BJ represents 85,000 building service workers in New York City. Nearly 3,000 of us live in Community District 3, and over 35,000 of us work in residential buildings like the one JMS Realty is proposing to develop. I'm here to tell you just how important it is that JMS Realty commit to creating high-quality jobs at 723, 733 Myrtle Avenue. The development at 723, 733 Myrtle Avenue should provide the community with high-quality building service jobs. These jobs at the building will affect the well-being of the community for years to come. Developments that pay building service workers the industry standard prevailing wage and benefits allow workers to stay in the city and support their families. Building service jobs can be jobs that pay $10.50 an hour with no benefits, or they can be good quality jobs that pay wages that allow people to put a roof over their head, save for retirement, and access health benefits. My union brothers and sisters and I have been able to stay in the city and support our families because we were lucky to have these kinds of jobs. We need to make sure that 723, 733 Myrtle Avenue is creating good jobs, not poverty jobs for Brooklyn residents. This is why I'm calling on the City Planning Commission to ensure that JMS Realty commits to creating high-quality, family-sustaining jobs at 723, 733 Myrtle Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Questions? Thank you. And I will once again ask if there are any other late-breaking folks who would want to speak on this item. If not, the public hearing is closed.
Borough of Brooklyn, calendar number 36, CD9, C160132 PQK. A public hearing in the matter of application for acquisition of property concerning All My Children Daycare Center, Daycare and Nursery 11.
We have here speaking in support of the application, Allison Grant, and also available for questions are Jason Ortiz from DCAS and Michael Bitar from ACS.
Hello, I'm Jason Ortiz with DCAS. Allison is just outside, so I can answer questions initially regarding the lease or any other questions.
Is she going to come in and testify?
Yes. Yeah.
Apologize. Hey, Jason. I'm doing 17 first. Good morning. I apologize. Double multitasking. My name is Allison Grant, and I am the Chief of Staff for the ACS Division of Early Care and Education. It's nice to see all of you this morning. I'm here in favor of the continued use of this space as a daycare center. As you may know, it was designed specifically for child care services, which means that it would be quite difficult to change it for something else, and we would love to continue to use it as a daycare center. The program that's currently there is contracted to provide early learn services for children 0 to 5. This program specifically is serving 2 to 5-year-olds. It's a child care program, meaning the families there are low income, earning less than 200% of the federal poverty level, and there are currently 68 children being served as of last week. So I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Questions from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Delos.
Thanks,
Commissioner.
Thanks for being here.
Of course.
Can you tell us what the current enrollment is at the center?
Yeah, it's 68
68.
out of 80 seats.
Okay, and this is pretty consistent? Well, I know it's early in the year.
Literally, yeah, and it goes up and down, as I've described before, and this week is a big turnover week, so by the end of the month, it should go up. But this is typical with the first day of school start being tomorrow. So systems are still getting, updated, et cetera, so.
Thank you.
Yes,
course.
Commissioner Efron.
Thank you. I think this may be the first school year where there's UP3 or whatever.
3K.
3K.
Yes, 3K is only in school districts 7 and 23. This program does not fall, 23 is Brownsville and Ocean Hill, and this one does not fall in that area. So all of the children across all of Early Learn that are born in 2014, meaning they'll be 3 by December 31st, they all are considered a part of 3K, but the only districts that are getting any additions or new kind of additions to the programming are in those 2 school districts.
Well, my question is whether there's any change needed in the facilities to make this more successful.
3K will not be in this school this year. I don't know when it will be. DOE will be adding 2 school districts per year. I don't know what will be up for 2018. But my understanding is that, I'll defer to Jason and Michael who are up to answer questions next from DCAS and ACS facilities, but my understanding is that any agreements that were needed for facility improvements were part of the scope of work. But nothing would be specifically needed for 3K because 3 and 4-year-olds were always being served at this program, so nothing would have to be changed to serve those 3-year-olds. I hope that answers.
There's an enhanced curriculum, so I'm perhaps DCAS can better answer it, but if there is anything that we have the opportunity to include as we're anticipating universal 3.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That would be something that we can follow up on with ACS and
I'd be happy
DCAS.
to do that.
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Great. I'll see you in a minute.
So those are the only speakers who have signed up. Anyone in the audience who might be interested? Okay, if not, the public hearing is closed. You had signed up for questions.
Questions only, so did you have
Yep. No, I had already read that out at the beginning, and the commissioners would ask. Thank you.
Okay, Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 37, CD3, C160207, PQM, a public hearing in the matter of an application for the acquisition of property concerning the Escuela Hispana Montessori 2 Child Care Center.
Okay, and we will invite Ms. Grant to come back, and she also has available for questioning Michael Blanchard and Michael Bitar from respectively DCAS and ACS.
Good morning. Should I introduce myself again for the record? Okay, my name is Allison Grant. I'm the Chief of Staff for the ACS Division of Early Care and Education. I'm here in favor of the continued use of this space at 180 Suffolk Street as a daycare center, which was designed specifically for child care services. As you know, this program is an early learn contracted program. Currently, the program there is Escuela Hispana Montessori, which is a dual eligible program, meaning these are extremely low-income children at the site. We serve both toddlers and preschoolers there, which means 2 to 5-year-olds, including universal pre-K and some 3-year-olds as well. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
And what's the proposed length of the lease?
I'll have to defer to DCAS.
Commissioner Deleuze.
Just 2 questions. One is, the standard question about current enrollment, knowing that it might fluctuate. And the other question I have, I believe it came up from the community perspective, and I wanted to know from the perspective of the program staff about the issue of drop-off in front and then the parking. I know that specifically came up in the recommendation that we heard. And I don't know if ACS has a particular approach to trying to request like no standing zones or no parking zones in front of facilities. And is that something that's under consideration?
Thank you, Commissioner. So current enrollment is about the same as the other location I spoke about, so about 3/4, so 127 of the 174 seats are currently enrolled. I expect those to go up this month. Regarding your questions about the parking drop-off and the no standing zones, my understanding from my colleagues in ACS facilities is that during the walkthrough, this did come up, and that our current practice is that we haven't been involved with that. We usually defer to the program to work with the community directly. But if, we can look into whether we can change that protocol and work with DOT. But since that hasn't been broached before, I don't want to make any promises, but we will look into it and we'll get back to the commission.
Other questions? Okay, then I
Great.
will thank you.
Thank you.
And turn to our next speaker in support, Erica Baptiste.
Good morning. I'm Erica Baptiste, urban planner at the Manhattan Borough President's Office, here to express our support for this application. This location has been used as a daycare center since 1973. These types of community facilities are important to the neighborhoods they serve. This is especially the case in this community, which has lost several such facilities over the last few years due to the proliferation and pressure for commercial uses. It is critical to ensure stability and longevity for these necessary community resources. During a walkthrough of the facility by our staff, we learned that nearby construction has resulted in the parking of additional vehicles on this block, blocking entrance and egress to the daycare center. Children who disembark from the daycare school buses are forced into the street and are exposed to danger from oncoming traffic. The center has requested a designated no parking during school hours zone to allow safe onboarding and disembarking of children, which I believe you guys were just discussing, and to permit bus parking during business hours. Our office will work with the school and the Department of Transportation to fulfill this request, and we recommend that the City Planning Commission coordinate on behalf of ACS and DCAS do the same. Additionally, with approval of this renewal, the center will be able to use funding to replace the rubber roof tiles with a quick drying roof. This will ensure children can continue to play in the facility's 3 playgrounds. Thank you.
I particularly wanted to thank the borough president for flagging the issue of the drop-off area, both because it appears to be an issue here, but also something that we could consider more broadly as we're looking at these renewals. Questions from the commission? Thank you, Ms. Baptiste.
Thank you.
And those are the speakers who are signed up on this item. I once again extend an invitation to anyone who's in the audience who might want to speak. If not, the public hearing is closed. Thank you.
Borough of Manhattan, calendar number.
No, I'm sorry. When you're available for questions, it says part of the first speakers. Thank you.
Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 38, CD8, C170452, ZSM. Public hearing in a matter of an application for the grant of a special permit concerning 19 East 72nd Street.
We will have an application, we will have a team presentation by the applicant team for 10 minutes with Judith Gallant, Samuel White, and Philip Habib.
Mr. Habib is actually not part of the presentation. He's a signed-up speaker. Sam White and I have. Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm Judy Gallant on behalf of the applicant. This is an application for a 74711 special permit to allow use group 6 commercial uses with accessory signage, with the exception of eating and drinking establishments in a portion of the ground floor of the building located at 19 East 72nd Street that is located in a residential zoning district. As originally filed, the application did not include the restriction on eating and drinking establishments. Subsequent to certification, the applicant filed a revised application, which is before you, removing eating and drinking from the scope of the special permit request. The building is located on the northwest corner of 72nd Street and Madison Avenue in the Upper East Side Historic District. It has 104 feet of frontage on Madison Avenue and 140 feet of frontage on 72nd Street. The lot is split by a zoning district boundary line between a C51 district within the special Madison Avenue Preservation District, which runs along Madison Avenue and is mapped to a depth of 100 feet, and an R10 district within the Park Improvement District, which begins 100 feet west of Madison Avenue. The area at issue in the application is all located on the portion of the ground floor west of the lobby entrance. The first 23 feet west of the lobby entrance is in the C51 district and contains 3 windows of a former, now vacant doctor's office. The remaining 40 feet further to the west is located in the R10 district and contains the door to the doctor's office, as well as one window from that space, and 3 windows that is now the super's apartment. The super has asked to move to the rear of the building, as his apartment is right on 72nd Street with windows at eye level, and the apartment is both noisy and lacking in privacy. The doctor's office has been vacant for a number of years, and the co-op board would like to convert that space, along with the adjacent super's apartment, to a single 2,300 square foot retail establishment, 478 square feet of which is located in the C51, and 1,836 square feet of which is located in the R10. Retail use is permitted in the C5 district, but there is no door to the C5 portion in the C5 district. The door is located in the R10 district. The only way to access the C5 portion for as-of-right commercial use would be to construct a door in the C5 district. That, of course, would entail alteration of the historic fabric of this very special building. Retail use is not permitted in the R10 district, but the entire 2,300 square foot space can be used for a medical facility, including a clinic, an urgent care center, or a physical therapy office. And the building feels that those uses, while as of right, are not best for the neighborhood or the building, and that a boutique like the one that they are requesting would be more compatible with both the block and the neighborhood. The proposed retail space would activate the ground floor, which we learned in yesterday's very good presentation from Claudia Harasmi is one of the guiding principles of New York's urban design. A medical office and a residence by necessity would have their blinds drawn all the time, as they do today. The super always has his blinds drawn because of the need for privacy, and this detracts from the vibrancy of the area. It does nothing for the streetscape. It's essentially dead space. In order to grant the special permit, the Commission must make one finding, and that is that the proposed use modification will have minimal adverse effects on conforming uses in the building and the surrounding area. The addition of the proposed retail space with its small size, the restriction on eating and drinking establishments, the discrete landmarks approved signage, limited strictly in size, fronting on a very wide sidewalk that is between 19 and 22 feet, and buffered from the street by existing planted areaways with recessed store windows would indeed have a minimal effect on the surrounding area. This building is not located on a quiet residential street. It's located on a wide street, 100 feet wide, with 4 moving lanes of traffic and 2 parking lanes. It provides direct access to Central Park and is one of its main and grand entrances. It contains a crosstown bus route. It's in the city's highest residential zoning district, R10, with retail in close proximity on both sides of 72nd Street in a historic district where retail and residential uses intermingle and coexist seamlessly. And the proposed store would be contiguous to the special Madison Avenue Preservation District, one of the purposes of which is to preserve and enhance street life by promoting specialty shops at street level, like the one that we are proposing. We are requesting a 40-foot extension of retail use, contiguous to this very special commercial district designed for this sort of thing on a block that's 420 feet long, and in this context, it is a minor waiver. And there is precedent in the historic district for retail uses in residential zones. A survey conducted by Philip Habib Associates found 11 such establishments between 67th and 79th Streets, 9 of which are located in mixed-use buildings that have residential use above, as we have here. And finally, in response to concerns raised by some at the community board, the applicant had a transportation study prepared which showed that there would be a negligible increase in pedestrian traffic and no increase or no change, even a decrease in vehicular traffic if the proposed retail store were to be sited. Sam White, the project architect, will now take you through the work that would be required to make this a reality, and then I'll return to answer questions that were raised at yesterday's review session and any other questions.
Thank you, Judy. I'm Sam White from PBDW Architects. The board that we've just put up shows the existing conditions on the top and the proposed conditions on the bottom. The proposed conditions involve changing 7 windows from double-hung units to single light units, adding a very modest amount of retail signage, which would consist of essentially decal lettering and then a very small signpost outside of the front door. The initial proposal that we submitted to Community Board 8 included awnings on these windows. That was not favorably received, and we removed those from the application. This view from Madison Avenue looking towards Central Park, I think demonstrates that there will be no impact on the negative impact on the existing pedestrian experience. The planting bed would still remain, and then I think that the combination of relatively small, by the standards of storefronts, relatively small windows, deeply recessed, a modest amount of signage, restrictions on use, is going to limit the type of tenant that would want to rent this space, and consequently would limit the kind of the amount of traffic that would be generated by the space. As part of the 74711 application, we had to demonstrate to the Landmarks Commission that there was a significant preservation purpose that would accompany this change, and the Landmarks Commission did vote unanimously to approve and accept our significant preservation purpose, which consisted not only of a general upgrading of the building facades well in excess of the requirements of local laws, but also reducing the permitted number of penetrations for air conditioners. An approved by LPC master plan in 2003 allowed us 16 additional penetrations in the limestone. We're essentially giving up 15 of those 16, and we also agreed that when apartments undergo renovation, we change the air conditioning grills to ones that were uniform in color and therefore improving the building experience. I'm going to return this to Judy at this point. Thank you.
Thanks. At yesterday's review session, there were some questions raised, and I'd like to address those. Commissioner Ortiz raised a question about whether 74711 requires that the applicant prove that but for the use modification, the applicant would not be able to maintain the building. That is not the case. The only requirements for 74711 special permit are that there's a program established for the continuing maintenance of the building and that there's a preservation purpose to the project. Landmarks unanimously found that there was that preservation purpose, and if the special permit is approved, a restrictive declaration would be recorded against the property that would require continuing maintenance in perpetuity. But yes, historic buildings are expensive to maintain, and those costs continue to escalate, particularly when an owner is committed to a very high standard, as this building is. And certainly income from a retail store would help to defray those costs, but there are multiple rationales for this application. The super would like to move because of privacy concerns from the street to the rear of the building. It's not a great location for residential use, and he's proven that. A boutique would be more compatible with the area given the adjacency of the Special Madison Avenue Preservation District, and the as-of-right uses are essentially dead space, as I explained earlier. We feel that the proposed use would enhance the pedestrian experience. And most importantly, the application does meet the findings of the special permit. Commissioner Ortiz also asked what kinds of retail uses would want to locate in an area that's off Madison Avenue, which I think that was suggested would be isolated. You have in your packets a letter from Andrew Kahn, who's an executive director of Cushman Wakefield. The letter, if you haven't read, I'll just give you a brief summary, basically states that off Madison Avenue locations like these provide a very important part of the market. It allows brands and smaller retailers that cannot afford Madison Avenue rents to be in that Madison Avenue retail district and part of that ecosystem when they wouldn't otherwise be able to, because the rents are really a barrier to entry. So it provides that service, and also it enhances the vibrancy of the retail because it allows for a variety of uses that, again, wouldn't otherwise be able to locate in the area due to cost. And the area...
I think now we'll turn it over to the commissioners for questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Reade.
Good morning, Judy.
Good morning.
Just out of curiosity, I assume the Landmarks approved, obviously, the change of windows at
Yes.
that level to the single pane glass. And also the signage on the windows. Did they approve the location of the signs in terms of the height or just the size of them? You show them at the bottom of the windows.
Yeah.
And I didn't know whether or not that was part of the Landmarks approval or whether...
I think the signage, the location of the signage is not approved as to location. It's just the size, the
okay.
total size and the size of the letters themselves. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Other questions? Vice Chair Knuckles.
I guess an aesthetic question, but I'll ask it anyway. The architect, with the removal of the AC units, the window AC units, how would you ventilate the space now?
Commissioner, we're not removed. We're simply not going to be making those penetrations. We've given up the option of making those penetrations in the future. Right now, it's limestone. It was determined that those rooms could be air-conditioned through other windows that were in the back of the apartment, and therefore they did not need to make penetrations onto the Madison Avenue or 72nd Street facade.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you very much for responding to my questions. And, it's more at my curiosity, as I've come to understand 711, it's a tool that the city has to encourage preservation. And here, clearly, these residents care about their building and will ensure preservation. And so how is this the right mechanism to use to accomplish what it is that you're looking to accomplish?
It's a very good question, and it was really directly answered by the Landmarks Commission. The issue was raised at the landmarks portion, during the landmarks portion of this. And it is very clearly, and the General Counsel to the Landmarks Commission addressed this to the commissioners at the hearing, it is not the policy of the Landmarks Commission to penalize good stewards of buildings. So, for example, if you said, as I believe it has been in the past, there was some voice on the Landmarks Commission suggesting that if a building was well cared for, it wouldn't be eligible for 74711 because we're not encouraging anything. The commission has since changed its view, as the General Counsel instructed the commissioners, and specifically does not want to penalize good stewards for their good stewardship. So they understand this to be a tool that helps a good steward continue in the future.
One question around the tenant. You currently can have a medical use there. We've faced situations here frequently where, ground floor retail, for whatever reason, there's a moment in time where it's hard to find a retail tenant. And so office use ends up being the alternative. Is that potentially an option here? I mean, you still are allowed the office use as of right, so what's to keep you from moving in that direction?
You mean the medical office use,
Yeah,
because
I don't see
6B
there
is
being
not
a
allowed.
problem with that.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of curious. It seems like you're jumping through a lot of hoops to get a retail
Yes.
use, and you might end up with an office use.
It's true. And obviously, the board is being counseled by a broker who's a specialist in Madison Avenue and all of its submarkets, and he has been very clear that given this quite special location, 72nd Street and Madison Avenue, it's a special block adjacent to a very special district. He's quite confident that within a very reasonable amount of time, it may not be a month or two, but within a reasonable amount of time, they will be able to get a tenant. It's not a very large store. The most it could be is 2,300 square feet. Some of that would be back of house. And he believes that there are tenants that would want to be here because of the very special location, and the rent would be at a deep discount to Madison Avenue.
And one other question. So I presume that there's a significant differential between an office tenant rent and a retail?
I don't have those exact figures, but there is a differential enough to have urged the co-op board to go through this process for 2 years. Hopefully they have calculated correctly.
But I would be curious what that is.
What the differential is.
Commissioner Irfan.
I welcome any answers to questions I posed earlier, but I have one at the review session. But I do have one other question and one thing to confirm. Is the co-op considering leasing any basement space to a retail tenant on 72nd Street is one
No.
question. Okay. And the other question is really more confirmation that there is no way to be contiguous with the gallery space that's currently under.
There is no way, because that would require absorbing the lobby, which the tenants would, the shareholders would not approve.
Okay, that's fine.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes, hi. Just, this may be more of a clarification than a new question, and there's been several questions about the air conditioning units. So just, and I may have missed this, but in the renderings of the first floor, of the ground level space, there are air conditioning units in those windows, and then in the proposed version with retail space, they are not there. So can you explain, is there something that will be done work-wise, or is this the area where it's been deemed they're not actually necessary?
You guys are sharp. Yes, the proposed 2,300 square feet extends to the backyard,
Okay.
and a air conditioner unit would be put either in the backyard or in
backyard
the
of
window
this-
facing the backyard.
Okay, understood. Thank you very much, thank you. I mean, I think just visually, that's an improvement on its own, but I understand, thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Dwight.
Going to the backyard air conditioning unit, will that abut a residential unit, and how will that impact the quality of life for?
Do we have a plan of the ground floor, Rena? I believe that the window in the backyard is recessed so that it's the significant impact, if you could, the significant impact of a air conditioner that was mounted in the unit but which had air conditioning grills on the rear wall of the building would be recessed by within the envelope of the building itself, which is to say the building extends past that area where the grill would be, so that it would not be, it is next door to a residence, but if you were in that residence, you would be shielded by the building 19 East 72nd Street itself, would be shielding the impact of that air conditioning unit.
Another question for Mr. White. You've spoken of the small sign next to the front door, but it's very hard to see. Do you have a blow-up or a better sense?
It is hard to see. I had brought to the community board hearing, I think, a piece of cardboard that was the size of this proposed sign, and I think the size of the proposed sign is approximately the size of these two pieces of paper. You see it, Rena, if you could point it out in the view going down. I think it's deliberately hard to see.
But it will be oriented perpendicular to the building?
Yes, so that you would be able to see it from Madison Avenue.
It may be easier to see in the packets that you received.
Not really.
No, sorry.
Commissioner Knight.
Can you speak to some of the concerns of the community board?
Sure. We were before the community board twice, as all 774, 711 applications are, at the landmarks phase of the application where they voted against the project unanimously. The community board was concerned about proposed awnings that were originally part of the application over each of the residential windows, as well as signage, 3D signage, letters that would have been affixed to the limestone facades. People on the landmarks committee of the board felt that was inappropriate for this building in particular, and they didn't want anything that would touch the limestone facades, which make this building special. Subsequent to the vote, and before we went to the Landmarks Commission, we heard the community board loud and clear, and we removed both of those elements, so that now, that's why we have resorted to decal lettering on the glass.
Commissioner Arfon.
That's very good. Thank you. Just to reconfirm, the awning was removed from the plan for the door as well as the windows?
Yes, all awnings have been removed.
And the planting will remain
Yes.
intact, the full length, except for the doorway?
Right, and at the doorway now, there is no existing planting right in front of the door, obviously. But everything will remain, nothing will change with the planted areaway.
Thank you.
Other questions from the commission? Thank you both.
Thank you.
And our next speaker in support is Philip Habib.
Good morning. I'm just here to answer any questions. So if there are.
Yes, Commissioner Delos.
Thank you for coming. Did I understand that part of your finding was that there may be an actual decrease, perhaps in pedestrian traffic?
Generally speaking, this project is about 2,300 square feet. It's actually smaller than the size of this room. And so it was not subject to environmental review. The applicant wished for some documentation, and the documentation is part of your presentation. If you compare the proposed retail use to the permitted medical office use, you would probably have more people walking in with the retail, but more vehicles, taxis, and so on with the medical office. So that's a nuance.
Other questions for Mr. Habib?
Very small.
Thank you, Mr. Habib. Our next speaker in support is Cobb Mixter.
Good morning. My name's Cobb Mixter. I'm a board member of 19 East 72nd Street. Richard Meyer, a resident, could not be here but asked that this letter be read instead. Chair Lago, Vice Chairman Knuckles, distinguished commissioners, I'm writing to respectfully request that you approve the 19 East 72nd Street Corporation 74711 special permit application currently before you. I have lived at 19 East 72nd Street since 1972, more than 45 years. I believe you'll be hearing from my neighbors, but as an architect as well as a resident, I felt it important to add my voice to the building's request for retail space on the ground floor. 19 East 72nd Street is one of Rosario Candela's most important and unusual buildings. Designed with Mott B. Schmidt, it is a late Deco limestone building with restrained decoration and exquisite bas-reliefs created by C. Paul Gemwein. The distinctive architecture of 19 East contrasts with the Renaissance Revival Chateau and Beaux-Arts style mansion, both Ralph Lauren retail establishments that neighbor us and make this cross street unique in New York. Our two exposed facades are fully clad in limestone, which is highly unusual. I believe that the addition of a retail establishment on 72nd Street to the west of our main entrance will be neither obtrusive nor harmful to the block. The prohibition of an eating and drinking establishment will help ensure that. The planted areaway, recessed single light windows, and refined signage, both of which were unanimously approved by the Landmarks Preservation Commission, and removal of the window air conditioners will, in fact, enhance the appearance of our western ground floor. In addition, as part of this application, the building has agreed to alter the 2004 LPC-approved window master plan by eliminating 15 of the 16 permitted penetrations of the limestone facades to accommodate new HVAC installations. This would contribute significantly to the preservation of the building by protecting large portions of the limestone facades from further alterations that have already received LPC approval and could be undertaken at any time. As indicated above, the smooth limestone facades of 19 East is a distinctive and unusual feature that warrants preservation. Our building would not request a change incompatible with this iconic historic block. Thank you for your consideration. Richard Meyer, FAIA.
Thank you, Mr. Mixter. Questions? Yes, Commissioner Efron.
Nice to see you. I'm wondering if it's come up at all in the board conversations for the co-op about the food cart that's on the corner. And I ask it quite seriously because it is not necessarily within your jurisdiction. It's permitted by others, but it is one of the few sources of inexpensive food in the entire neighborhood. And I'm just wondering if there's any concern about it being an impediment to the success of the retailer over there.
So the food cart has come up in board conversation, not in the context of this, whether or not it would be an impediment, but certainly as far as I understand, and there are others here who could also address this, the food cart is permitted to stay and will be staying.
So, okay, great, thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Mixter. Our next speaker in support is Carrie Copland.
Good morning, I'm Carrie Copland. Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and distinguished commissioners. I'm president of the 19 East 72nd Street Corporation. 5 of our 7 board members are here to support this application. We all greatly appreciate the Borough President's support, and we are here to respectfully request that you approve our application. Thank you. And I will take questions if any are posed.
Questions for Mr. Copland?
Not
yes, Ms.
opposed.
Ortiz.
Hi, I'll revisit the question I asked earlier. You obviously, under your current uses allow for medical facilities, doctor's offices. Why pursue a retail use in lieu of, a medical use? What do you see as the benefit to that? I presume monetary. I mean, you speak to that.
Well, as I think Judy Gallant indicated, and we do not have exact numbers because we have not gone out to solicit and be presumptive that we can put retail in this space, but it certainly would be economic. We also believe that there is a plethora of medical facilities. We do not want to have a city MD, walk-in urgent care. There are as of right uses that we could put in there today. but we are very sensitive to the architecture and to the location. When you look across the street with Ralph Lauren on either side, it is an iconic block. We are very preservation-oriented. Though people walking outside can't see it, we restored our lobby to the original Candela style. We also, on Madison Avenue, were very careful about whom we put in our northernmost location, Perfume de Frederic Malle. It is a low-key, upscale, low-volume occupant. And I think, as Philip Habib said, while there may be more people walking into a boutique, a retail facility at significantly lower rents than one finds on Madison Avenue, a medical facility, a high-use, multi-doctor's office. First, 2,300 square feet is not large for a 5 or 6 doctor location. But we just think the use and it's appropriate to have a retail location there. We do maintain the building. We're not pleading poverty, but we are, and Landmarks has found a significant preservation aspect to our proposal. And that's why, again, we respectfully ask that City Planning join the Borough President in approving this application.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Copeland.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is, we welcome back Erica Baptiste.
Hello again. Good morning still. I'm Erica Baptiste, urban planner here on behalf of the Manhattan Borough President to express our support for this application to combine a vacant former doctor's office and the building's superintendent's apartment. The Upper East Side Historic District, particularly along Fifth Avenue, is noted for the distinguished mansions and townhomes built for prestigious clients in the late 19th century, which contribute to and enhance the unique architectural and historical significance of the neighborhood. 19 East 76th Street is an Art Deco-style luxury apartment building constructed between 1936 and 1937 by Rosario Candela. The Manhattan Borough President believes the conditions and findings have been met for the requested special permit. The building has existing retail use along Madison Avenue, and according to the applicant's commissioned traffic study, the high-end destination tenant they seek will have very low impact on pedestrian and vehicular traffic. The commission study was in response to the concerns raised by the community board during the review of the Landmarks application. The applicant has also proposed a first-class restoration of the building and has proposed decal lettering to be applied to the windows and doors instead of affixed to the historic building. The restoration work will reinforce the historic significance of the building within the Upper East Side Historic District. The scope of work was adjusted following the community board's resolution requesting changes to the signage amounts, location, and use of awnings. The proposal that LPC ultimately approved as fulfilling the preservation purpose, which accompanies the special permit, reflects those sensitive adjustments. Thank you.
Questions for Ms. Baptiste? Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker in support is M. Barry Schneider.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Barry Schneider, and I'm here this morning in support of the application before you. The request is modest in scope, respects the nature of the landmark, and the use is harmonious with its neighbors. As the president of the East 60s Neighborhood Association, I'm very mindful of what makes a neighborhood a neighborhood. It's the residents, institutions, retailers, and open space. And I believe this application respects its neighbors, every one of them. And speaking of my credit, I am a member of Manhattan Community Board 8, and as such, I participated in the discussion and the vote on the application when it came before the Land Use Committee, which is a committee of the whole. Unfortunately, the discussion went off the rails early on. Many members addressed matters of landmarking, not land use. They got caught up in issues of windows. They ignored the matter of adding retail space, forgetting that it abuts Madison Avenue, a world-class shopping destination. As the board was ready to vote, a fog shrouded the room,
and a red herring was on the menu. Thank you.
Quite an image.
You had to be there.
Questions from Mr. Schneider. Yes, Commissioner Efron.
Thank you for coming. Since it seems like most of the 11 sites that were mentioned are in the 60s, maybe it's not most, but some of them are in
Yeah.
the 60s. Can you just share with us how it's worked? Has it been successful from a preservationist and a neighborhood point of view to have the retail between Fifth and Madison?
Great. The association was formed 26 years ago, so we've had some history. We are mindful of the nature, as I said in my remarks, of the nature of the community. Many of my colleagues see the Upper East Side as a quiet cul-de-sac in Westchester County. It's not. We've got institutions, we've got retailers, we've got residents, we've got owners, we've got renters, we have highways, and we have transit. It's a multitude of stakeholders, and we have to be cognizant of their needs. I think we've done a fairly thorough job in protecting preserving what we have in the community. And one of the hallmarks of our early on ventures was the Park Avenue Armory, where we worked together with the community board, and I think achieved a remarkable edifice and institution.
Thanks.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Schneider.
much.
Our next speaker in support is Brenda Levin. You're on.
Good morning. I'm Brenda Levin, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chairman, Commissioners. I'm a consultant on this project. I spent 8 years on my community board and 9.5 years on this very commission. But as you heard today, this process is daunting. I'm going to conclude our presentation with a very brief summation. Our client has been diligent and respectful of the process. They responded to every concern anyone raised. They got rid of the awnings, they got rid of the signage above the windows, they filed an amended application to self-prohibit an eating and drinking establishment. They had a traffic study done. They sought the advice of a top retail broker to ensure that, yes, this is a location for a boutique. It's not isolated, it's a wide sidewalk on a wide street, a main entryway to Central Park. Our client is committed to always having the planted areaway. It's a feature of the building. We believe a boutique will enliven the streetscape, as we heard yesterday about good urban design. There is nothing interesting about the dead space of a medical facility and eye-level apartment, both with drawn blinds for privacy. It could be said that this building was made for a boutique. And we have the support of the Manhattan Borough President. We respectfully request that you approve this application. Thank you.
Questions for Ms. Levin? Thank you.
Thank you.
And those are the only speakers registered on this item. If there's anyone present who'd want to speak, please just make your way forward. If not, this public hearing is closed. And Madam Secretary, any other business before us?
No, Chair Lago.
And we end before 11:30. Meeting's adjourned.